for a while. There's an issue in the Cadence repo that's open for it right now that's had a decent amount of discussion. That yeah, we'd like to implement at some point in the near future, but I don't know what the current plan is for that.
Yeah. Did you have more on it, or do you want me to?
Oh no, you go for it.
Yeah. So, removing the ID field of the NFT because we have UUID, so we don't need ID.
Yeah.
Uh, and then removing total supply because you don't need total supply anymore when you have UUID.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean,
making
I guess you don't need it anymore. It might still be useful to have a total supply field, but I agree with you that it's probably not important to include it in the actual standard.
nope. And I observe now that on the emulator, the UUID is just an counter. It's just an ID. It's just an integer that is incremented for all resources. So
Wait,
it's
is the UUID unique to each contract,
to each resource.
to each resource?
Yeah. So each resource. So when I do my NFMT demo, when I run that now, the ID for my resources are start at 22 and 23, 24, 25 are the ID. So
Oh,
not 0, 1, 2, and 3 as it used to be before. So it looks like it creates a lot of resources when you start up the NFT, like contracts and everything. But it's
okay.
basically the format is just an integer, so it's the same.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, then I guess that's the only one needed it at all.
Um,
For some reason, I was thinking that UUID was like a globally unique
yeah. So
identifier.
normally when I think of UIDs, I think of not an integer but a like string.
Yeah.
It has like a location path, and that's just from my enterprise background. But
Hmm.
so making owned NFTs not public.
Yeah, for sure.
It should never be public.
I agree.
Um, creating a transfer method that allows you uh to deposit to withdraw something and deposit it into another collection and emit an transfer event because then you have a single event to track from and to. So right now you need to correlate the withdraw event and deposit event to figure out who sent who to what. But if you have a transfer event, you can do that in a single event. And you can also have batch transfer and batch withdrawal, I guess. So batch events. I mean, you have that in Top Shot, don't you, Josh? So events
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, it is. It is in Top Shot. We didn't include it in the standard because we just wanted to be as like as bare bones as possible with the standard. But I am realizing now that that it probably does make sense to be a little bit more prescriptive for those kinds of things because they are super useful. It was the same thing with transfer. Like we had a transfer function in the standard at one point, but we were a little bit more I don't know I don't know what the right word is, a little bit more bullish on the flexibility of transactions at that point, that like you could
Mhm.
include arbitrary coding transactions. So we were like, it's not often that people are just going to be doing a basic like transfer between accounts. Like with NFTs, people are often like withdrawing them and then moving them into a sale, or they're getting purchased from a sale, which and like there might not be a transfer in that case. But now we're realizing that like it first of all, people are the 99% of transactions on Flow are transactions that are like saved in a prescribed list from whatever app that you're using,
Mhm.
and a lot of them do use like the capabilities to like do a transfer instead of like doing a withdrawal and then a deposit. And so just put it. It just makes things a little bit cleaner to include it in transfer. So um, I think I do like the idea of having a transfer function as well.
Yeah, so it's batch deposit and batch transfer as well, I guess.
Yeah,
So batch, if you want to batch everything, you could batch it if you like.
yeah.
So I'm not sure on this, but so in my NFT method of the proposal, I have this get name method. So it's basically just a name of the NFT, like a written name. I'm not sure if it should be a method or if it
Mhm.
should be just a string, but
Yeah, that's another thing that that we also were a little bit hesitant to include as a field because again, like it's some. I think a lot of people had some issues with with like ERC20 and ERC721 and Ethereum having like the fields like for like the name and the symbol and the description because it wasn't something that always applied to every single project. Um, but if it does apply to most projects,
yeah.
then it still might be worth including
But
just so there is more of a standard interface.
but but I still feel that a method is better because a method you can implement that whatever
Yeah,
way you like, right? If you have a field,
yeah,
you have to have a field.
yeah,
But if you have a method, you can fetch that from a struct you have or whatever you like, so you have the
yeah,
freedom.
yeah, that's true.
And I guess my last point is my um the content negotiation or schemas or views as somebody else suggested we should call it. So basically that where
Yeah.
you have kind of the so my word for it is schemas, but I actually think views are better.
You said views?
So yeah, Raxor's suggestion was views, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just figured it's more of I called it a view because it's more of like looking at the NFT in a different shape, right?
So
So
if you go to if you go to the bottom, Josh, of that document you were just reading,
Oh yeah.
he has commented way down below. So way down below, he in the comments,
Hmm.
here Brian has commented on his views and why
Yeah.
he prefers views are better than schemas.
Hmm.
So I tend to agree with him. I just haven't updated my proposal because this is his proposal, so he should
Yeah.
have it, right?
oh
Hmm.
no, I'm standing on the shoulder of a giant here, Tech.
But I also think that so Brian, was it Brian?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. So your proposal or your NFT that you posted in the channel earlier, um, I think both my generic NFT and your NFT that you made should be possible using the standard, right? So
Correct.
and these simple methods will actually allow both of our standards to work seamlessly. So it shouldn't be too complicated because you kind of want to have people implement it the way they like.
Mhm.
So the demo I did last week, I actually updated that code to work with this. Not so I still have schemas, I don't have views, but it works with these methods. So with storing the type in the type in the views as well. It makes it a lot easier,
Mm.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about this is when I think about NFTs and one of the biggest things to overcome, even on other platforms besides Flow, is integrating them into other applications. And
Mhm.
everybody that implements an NFT does like things differently, you know. But with this, there's a way for people, if I'm an application developer, um, uh, if I'm an application developer and I want to let people integrate their NFTs into my application, I can expose a struct, via some contract that I've deployed and allow the NFT developers to implement a view or a schema for that struct, and now the NFT is usable within my application.
And that is so powerful. The thing you just mentioned
Mhm.
there, especially with that latest method that you suggested to get all of the schemas for a given type, because then you can discover things. So if you have enumeration and you have that, then you have like plug and play compatibility. So if you
Yeah.
want an item to be available in Chain Monsters, you have a struct that says this is a one-handed item. So this one-handed item can then be used in Chain Monsters, for instance. That's just an example.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
uh so to dream a little, because all that all that I have suggested thus far is possible, but generics would be really nice to
Mhm.
avoid writing boilerplate code. So if we had generics, you could say that this is a collection for a Chain Monster NFT, and you don't have to write the collection code because that is basically can handle generics. But as Josh says, it's a big change, and
Yeah.
if we have default methods, as we will have soon, we could change the contracts maybe so that right now you need to enforce the type of the NFT that you deploy because the contract says it should be a NFT to deposit.
Yeah.
But you need to kind of bang it, as I said, to force it into your type. But if we abstract that a little bit differently, then we could have a lot more default methods in the collection. So that would be preferable if you ask me. So if you could structure the code the way that in order to create your own NFT, you don't have to write a lot of the boilerplate code. That is um, the main point, I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean the withdraw, deposit, get IDs, and borrow NFT, they are basically the same. They are the same in every contract except that the events, I think you need to. There are some things with events because I tried to make them
Yeah.
default, but it doesn't work really well with events right now if you do it that way. So
Yeah. Yeah, I also like I something we wanted is that like a a way to require that a certain event is emitted within a method.
yes,
Because right now there's no way to like a project could just forget to include like the withdraw or the deposit event in their withdraw or deposit function. Um, and then they don't really, I mean, they comply with the standard, but like it's not really that useful. Um, um, so yeah, that's pretty good. Um, you have anything else, Birate?
no, I think that is it for now, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks for running through those.
So I have one last thing, and that is royalty.
Oh yeah,
So you can fix royalty through the schema thing, but I really think that royalties are so important that we should. So you can have both have royalties on a collection and on a single NFT. So in Versus, for instance, we have royalty for each art, so the artist will get a cut on secondary sale, and our marketplace is going live really soon. We have it up on Canary or on our Canary site right now, but it is so important to just solve that correctly so that all marketplaces can agree on how you do royalty. So
yeah,
again, you have royalties as it can either be fixed or it can be percentage based, and it can be in a given currency, and you can
hmm
have some royalties on the collection or in the marketplace, I guess, and some on the NFT itself.
yeah, yeah. That
I
makes sense.
I think the schema thing would really help with that, like you said. And then someone mentioned earlier the path thing too. If there was part of that schema thing is having like a standard set of these structs that are managed by some standards body that deploys them, and there could be one that just describes the path names for storage.
Yeah.
But also having the enumeration of the storage also be tied to the not only the path but the type would also be really helpful.
Yeah.
You can say,
that
give
makes
me
sense.
all the collection for that is for royalties.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, one other I like the idea of handling the royalties like in like the schemas because it doesn't seem like it's something that should be included in like the base NFT standard by default, but it could be. Another idea is having it as like a separate interface that's like compatible with the NFT standard. So projects could still, I don't think in Cadence right now, I still don't think contracts are able to implement multiple interfaces. I'm not totally sure about that, but if
You
they
can't.
could, yeah. So
You can't have tried.
yeah. So if it was a separate interface, we could still have a standard way to do that, but not have it be required for every NFT project. So um, yeah, I think that needs a lot more discussion. Um, all right, that's a lot of good points. Anybody else want to go next?
Hey, Josh. This is just a mere extension of what we already had here. But one of the things I was thinking about in the Cadence channel yesterday was using the UUID for the key inside the owned NFTs dictionary. Just because with the standard right now, the assumption is that every NFT would have that unique ID. But as BRTech was mentioning, if we remove that ID field and just go by the UUID, then we could use that as the key in the owned NFTs dictionary.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's definitely interesting idea. Though it is something that if I don't know how we'd be able to handle this in NFT standard, but like if we had multiple NFT types like in a single contract, like it might not be something that's worth like supporting with like the single standard. But that if there were, then that would cause some conflicts maybe. I guess we could also like have the dictionary be indexed by type as well. Um, but
We have multiple different types of NFTs in a single contract.
yeah. Yeah, so like being able to support I'll write this down also, but yeah, being able to support multiple NFT types in a single contract. Um, how how would a single collection handle that? Um,
Oh, never mind. You meant type by like literal interface implementation. I meant something else. Sorry.
well, wait, so what did you mean?
I mean, we just have the ability to call, to categorize the NFTs within the system. We have this concept of archetypes and artifacts, and so one could be a baseball NFT and one could be a basketball NFT, but they all implement the same interface and cadence.
Okay, so they're still the same type, you just have different like fields or something that
Yeah.
distinguish them? Okay, yeah. No, I mean like actually having two or more like separate NFT types in the same contract that both like implement the NFT interface but are like different concrete types.
Right.
So in that case they would have different UUIDs because they're different resource types. So which yeah, it might be worth supporting it in a standard. It does introduce a lot of complexity that might not be worth it because then we got to figure out, yeah, how would we store those? Like, would we want to do it in a single collection? Like, we could have we could potentially have a field, like an optional field in a collection that stores other collections that like store like any number of different NFT types, or we could just have multiple collections that are stored at like separate storage paths. Yeah, it just kind of depends.
Yeah.
On,
But
on
Josh,
what is.
if you use UIDs, I think it will already be supported, as long as
Yeah.
you don't force cast too narrowly. So if you force cast, let's say you have NFT 1 and 2 in a contract, and
Mhm.
they both implement an interface. So if you just force cast to the interface in the deploy method, then it will just work because the UIDs won't have conflicts. They increment for every resource. They will increment. They have the same shared counter.
For every resource in the contract, or every resource of a type.
No, I think it's for
I
every
think
resource created ever. They will just increment it, but I'm not sure.
yeah. I think yeah,
Wait.
I think it is for every resource.
Every resource in like globally.
Yes, because
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that UUID was only scoped to the contract or to the actual resource type.
I don't think it is, because when I run my demo now and use UID instead of ID, it starts at ID 22 and not at ID 0. And I have not created any resources in that contract before. So that kind of tells me that there has been 22 resources created by like contracts deployed or collections made during the deploy process of my contracts and things like that. So,
Okay.
but I
So
guess we
then,
could confirm that with
yeah, we might need to confirm
or
that.
whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was that's actually why I was bringing this up, was because I was approaching it from the idea that the UUID was globally unique, so you would never have to worry about that level of like duplication inside your own NFTs, which is maybe one of the slight problems I have with it now, is like, even though we're assuming that the ID is never going to be duplicated, like it's still possible if someone's messing with the total supply in the current standard. But
Yeah.
with the UUID, if it's just globally unique, then you would never even have to have that concern.
I'm gonna post the definition of UID in the office hours chat. That is taken from the documentation.
Okay. So then. So this is what yeah. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where I said I thought the UUID was globally unique, but we said that we could use the UUID instead of the total supply field. So what were you talking about there?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I didn't express myself clearly enough. So it says no two resources will ever have the same identifier.
Yeah.
That's the key words. So basically, it is globally unique. So you can index on UID in the collection, and it will, as long as you force cast appropriately, you will be able to support multiple type of NFTs in the collection. And that is really huge if you do
Yeah,
that.
that is.
Because so right now you need to have like so many collections everywhere, because you can't have different kinds of NFTs in a collection. And this is going to be really huge.
Exactly, yeah.
So would we? I mean, so this is kind of would we like want to potentially support like some sort of master collection that people can store any NFT in, or do we still think it's better to say that people should still have collections for separate NFT like projects?
Personally, I think that the standard contract, so when you deploy, should come with a Flow wallet, a FUSD wallet, and this global collection that is always there. Because it will make things so much easier if you know that there is always a collection where you can put things if other things are unlinked, or if other thing doesn't work. Because there are some very edgy cases when you write contracts where you have to code into the contract that somebody could unlink things, and then it will panic the entire transaction. But if you then always know that you have a master collection where you can put that trash, if you call it, or whatever, then it will be very, really, really powerful.
I totally agree. And it also, that doesn't like remove the possibility that you could have individual collections too, right? Like you could still have both. But I think, like Bartek is saying, it would be really helpful just to, be able to handle this edge case as well. And this is definitely possible if if like we're using that definition for the UUID.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm still a little bit confused about this total supply point. How would we get the total supply from a specific contract if we don't have the total supply field?
You can't basically.
Okay. So
If you want that, if you want that, if you want to have the total supply for it, you can't. I just said remove it because it's not needed anymore. But if you have like a business need for a total supply, then you need it. But right now you need it because you need to increment every time you create a new resource, right?
yeah.
To have uniqueness. But since we already have uniqueness with another technique, I guess,
hmm
then you don't need it for that uniqueness reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I understand now. I was a little bit confused. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. And does anybody else have other things they want to bring up?
Are we talking only NFTs here, or are we talking cadence improvements in general?
Well, I think we're talking specifically about the NFT standard right now. But if nobody else has anything to bring up about the NFT, we can just talk generally about cadence. Got a lot of stuff here now enough stuff here now that I can start creating like documenting these a little bit more and creating some issues in like the cadence repo and in the NFT repo, so we can start getting some more detailed discussion that is saved in GitHub. But does anyone else have anything to add for NFTs?
I just have a single question. So we are talking now about creating an entirely new standard, right?
Yeah.
But I also feel that some of this can easily be added to the existing standard, like the schema and the view type especially.
Yeah.
Can be added to the existing NFT without breaking compatibility, as I have proven. And I
Yeah.
think it would be beneficial to do both, right? Because it's going to be a lot easier to migrate data and things like that if the old standard supports part of the views or schema thing especially. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think I mostly wanted to just get as many ideas as possible, but yeah, I think that whatever we can add to the existing standard probably should be added. And then honestly, like I still don't even know if like we would be able to like create like a new standard. I guess we would be able to, but there's still a lot of hurdles for that. So I think we would need to start creating some more detailed proposals with examples and stuff, and then start like running that through, yeah, through all of y'all in the community, and then showing it to other NFT projects in the space, showing it to more people on the flow team, and start getting more approvals from them as well. But yeah. Anyone else have anything to add to the NFT discussion?
The master collection that we talked about there, it just sounds a bit scary. If we were to add a public link, people could flood your storage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
Just something to keep
reasonable
aware.
yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
A really good point. I mean, so some people say that storage is expensive. I mean, for Versus, we have been doing drops for a couple of months now. We have like 20 different images and things stored. We have one flow in locked storage requirement. One. It is not expensive to store things on the flow, just from my perspective. But still, yeah.
Yeah. But still, it's still like it's a really good point that we want to be able to avoid people being able to lock out an account by just flooding them with NFTs.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. But also, so right now there are no fees. So
yeah.
that kind of makes it's free to put things in others' account. But when there are fees,
Mhm.
it will be you
Yeah.
need to pay to do it. So then
That's
it will
true.
be a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah, still.
Yeah.
That'll be
Yeah, I mean,
interesting
is
for things like airdrops in the future, huh?
hmm Well, but I guess but it is nice like to be able to not allow airdrops because there I mean just because like there yeah we don't like to be for people to anyone to be able to just like airdrop a
No, I understand.
anything.
My MetaMask wallet is basically useless when I go to the use your toy because of that. So
Yeah, so but yeah,
Um,
it could be useful in some sense.
There's also an issue open, I forgot where, but about, I guess, changing how storage fees work a little bit and opting to not to lock the tokens from the creator or the creating
Mhm.
contract. That might be something worth exploring, and maybe if we have these public links, it can be configured to only allow uh, items in where the storage fee is already covered
Yeah.
by whoever's sending it.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Well, I mean that's already kind of the case. Like if an account goes over its storage in a transaction, then the transaction will revert. So so if but I get what I'm saying is like what someone could do is that they could deposit just enough NFTs into an account to put them right at their
Yeah.
limit so that then that account couldn't do anything else unless they added more flow to their account and then that person could just do it again to keep locking someone out of their account. Um,
Yeah, but what if you could programmatically access how many locked tokens you say you have in your account
mhm.
for storage? Then you can say that this master collection will only allow adding things if there are locked tokens. So not available
Oh,
tokens, locked tokens. So
okay.
then you can say,
Yeah.
So you could have like a field. Are you saying like you could have like a field in this master collection that says like I only will allow myself to store up to like this amount of storage?
that's another
Yes.
possibility. That is,
Or
it's
Yeah.
the same
But
need.
also allow someone else to cover the cost if you wanted more in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Or-
yeah.
you could have a
Yes.
storage path type where the transactor pays for the storage too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another. It's not related to NFTs, but being able to say that I will automatically top off your account to store things.
Yeah.
That is also could be really nice if we can have
Yeah.
that.
AWS does the same thing with S3 actually. You can
Oh,
when you're
duh.
dropping something in a bucket, you can make it so that the creator pays.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Oh,
an
cool.
interesting idea.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll have to discuss that more. It's didn't think about it that way, but like it could be like a special deposit function or something that also takes like a flow token vault as a parameter.
Yeah,
Um,
or you can just look up a path that is your locked tokens
yeah.
and look there what is the balance there or yeah.
Mhm.
There are lots of tricks you can do to make it, but the core need is the same. Limit how much you can put into the master collection.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, for
thinking the
sure.
vault would be part of the NFT. I guess assuming the storage size is static.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it starts to get a little bit more complicated when if we would start kind of combining storage fees with like an NFT standard. We would need to do it in a way that like na- storage fees can't know about the NFT standard. It has to be able to kind of function on its own.
Right.
So yeah. Um, okay. Does anyone have anything else they want to add? We've only got a few minutes left. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that I'm gonna start creating some issues for these so we can start discussing them. And also, I mean, it might be nice, like for those of you who are interested, um, if we could maybe, yeah, use like a Discord channel in here, to start discussing like how we want to start doing this, because like we could potentially include all of these into into like an example interface, so we can start actually having examples. And I know some of you are already started working on that. Um, but is there anyone who here who like wants to take a little bit of like a leadership role for this kind of work? Or should I handle most of that?
I vote Bjartik, and I'll help him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll also help and contribute.
I'm just kidding. I can't. You know,
I mean,
he's got his own schedule.
I'm happy to do whatever is needed, but I'm also happy if somebody else takes the lead on this, because I've got a lot of other things that I'm working on. Um, but
Curious,
like
Josh, on in terms of like timeline and stuff like this. I know this is probably the first time you guys have redrafted a spec after it's been out in the wild for a while.
mhm.
So maybe you can't answer this question, but what do you think the timeline on something like this might be? Like, let's just say like the schema thing, for instance, which
I
would involve
mean,
the default methods and then updating the.
if we like decided today, like as a community and as a like the as a flow team, that we were gonna commit to making this standard and releasing it like as soon as it's ready, like as soon as possible, we can probably do it in, I mean, I not with all of these features, like they're like the generics and some of the new features to Cadence like would probably take a while, but like assuming we had all of these features that we wanted in Cadence implemented in Cadence already, we could probably do this in like a few months. But there's no way that it's going to happen that quickly, because there's just a lot of other priorities for the Cadence team and for the Flow team, and also like I said before, like we might want to wait a little bit longer to gather more feedback to build more things into Cadence. So it's hard to really put like an estimate on it, but like I would say that you should definitely not expect it to happen until like next year, like at the earliest, I think. I mean, not maybe not definitely. It could happen earlier than that if we really prioritized it. But it just depends. There's a lot more people that would still need to run it by, and a lot more iterating to do on it. Because these things are usually a pretty slow process. I mean, I remember in Ethereum, like it took a really long time to finalize the ERC 721 standard. Just because there's just so much feedback, so much iteration to do on it before getting to something that everyone can feel confident about. Um, so yeah, but the more like the more that we as like a community, and as Cadence developers, the more thought we put into this and the more discussions that we have, like the faster it'll move. And also just if we have really good proposals, like really well written proposals, well documented proposals, the easier it will be to show it to other people, and get good quality feedback on it. So yeah.
Is there a repository for things like Ethereum had the ERP or whatever that.
EIP.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had come up with the idea for like a flow improvement proposal, that we call flips, and we haven't really started like strongly encouraging that use yet. It's in like in the flow, the onflow/flow repo. There's like a flip template file. I think it's at the like there's like a flips directory in that repo that has like a template for a flip that we've created a few flips for various features, but we haven't started using it universally yet. So I would say for now, if you have like a suggestion for something that normally would go in like in the Ethereum world into like an Ethereum improvement proposal, I would probably just create an issue in the relevant like repo. Like if it's a cadence suggestion, creating the cadence repo and like for FlowGo and for like the NFT standard and stuff like that. But eventually I think we are going to start moving towards using the flow improvement proposal paradigm, but we just haven't really gotten to that point yet. So I think just regular GitHub issues are your best bet for
Cool.
now.
Still have to standardize the standards.
Yeah, we're still kind of working out the kinks there.
Cool.
Cool. All right. Yeah, we're a little over time now. So yeah, like I said, I'll start creating issues for some of these, and I'll post it in the Cadence channel, and we can start having some more discussions during office hours, but also we might still do some ad hoc calls and things like that outside of office hours on specific features that we've talked about here. So anyone else have anything anything else they want to add really quick, or we good to go?
I have two real quick questions, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
The one is there currently any way to do like a auto subscribing contract? So if you wanted someone to pay a specific amount of FUSD every month?
It's certainly possible. I don't know if anyone has built it yet, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I've seen in the community for that kind of contract. But
Can you repeat what you asked again? There was some noise on the chat. I didn't hear you.
Yeah. So my question was whether it would be possible to build like a subscription contract. So if I had to offer a service, let's say an NFT rental service on my platform, could someone subscribe through the contract to pay 5 FUSD every month on the first of the month?
I
yeah,
don't think you're going to have the ability to automatically trigger that. Like you'll have to have something external hit your contract and
Yep.
Yeah.
invoke it. But there's nothing automatic on the chain to do that for you.
And that would be, I mean, if you had something trigger the contract, if it's a non-custodial, so let's say my user has a block to a wallet, how would they then approve that transaction if I triggered it, let's say, from a backend?
You don't need to have them necessarily approve a transaction. Like if they gave you a capability to their vault that they're paying from, and you triggered the payments, you could just kind of like take an approved amount of flow from their vault. Once a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds cool. I'll look into that. And then my other question is, first of all, thank you for that NFT storefront contract. That's really cool to see that also being a standard. Are there any plans to do something similar that's not for NFTs? So would having a standard contract for just a storefront where I could sell shoes or golf caps be a possibility?
I don't think it's something that the Flow team is going to prioritize right now. And also, are you talking about like real life, like selling real life things like via blockchain transactions?
Whatever. So if I could give you a shoe in return for 5 FUSD, or I could send you a customized video for 5 FUSD, or I can send you a handwritten note, whatever the case may be. So like it could be a shoe, it could be a car, it could be a dog, just like a generic transaction storefront.
Yeah. I mean, if you're transacting in off-chain things, then there's not really much of a reason to include to write a specific contract for it, in my opinion. I guess unless you want to have like a record of those transactions on chain, because like you're still like the exchange of the physical item is happening off chain, so there's no way for like the on-chain stuff to enforce that unless it's just as a record of this transaction happening.
Yeah, but you'd need some form of, you'd need something to verify that transaction and which transaction it was, right? Because if you sell a lemon and an orange both for 1 FUSD and someone just gives you 1 FUSD, you wouldn't know whether they bought the lemon or the orange, right?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, in that case, you'd want to include some sort of like, yeah, memo or something with like
Like an order ID or
the payment, but it's something that like it kind of there's not really it's not really something that like is that we really would make like a standard for, I think, because it just kind of depends on what kind of transactions you're doing.
I was just thinking it'd be cool because someone could then launch a store on Flow without actually submitting a contract and having to review. They could just have a transaction, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can just send FUSD or send flow, without having to write a contract for it. So just give somebody your address and they can send you whatever.
Yeah, but the traceability of that's still an issue. So you wouldn't know what they sent or be able to prove what they sent you flow for. You just get a payment. You wouldn't be able to know it was for order 1 or order 25.
Well, but they could put anything they want in in the payment memo. They can't
But,
like they have no
but
proof.
so Josh, we have talked about the NFT standard, but the FT standard, right? So the FT standard now, it has a deposit method, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a deposit method where you can send a message. So if you had a deposit message where you can send a message and
Yeah.
emit an event that
Mhm.
contain both the from and to and the amount and the message, that would basically solve this issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because that would say I can send to Raxor, I can send 25 USD and say I would like your hat, please, for instance, or some code or whatever.
I've got
Yeah.
a really big head though, man. It might not fit.
Yeah, that could work. And that's one that we could update the current standard for once we have default implementations, we could add that to the
Yeah.
current standard pretty easily.
Yeah, so that would be really nice because I often find that. So it's so when you go to a Block Explorer now, you can see that you have gotten flow, but not from where, for instance. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's true.
the reason I say that in Versus, we have like this feature where when you're outbid, you get your money back. So we send it back to your account in Blockto.
Mhm.
But it doesn't say on what bid you're outbid. You only get a certain amount back. But if we
Mhm.
then can send a message to say that, so your bid on the unique auction was returned to you, then you can know, like in the pop-up, that okay, it was this. I got the money back because
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
Do you not accomplish that with some sort of event in your original contract that you just emit as part of the transaction?
You could, but it's nice to have it
Yeah.
standardized.
Yeah, you could, but Blockto only sends you a pop-up when there are flow deposited to your account.
Oh, I see. And
So if you
for it
get
to
Blockto,
integrate with a wallet, that makes
yeah,
sense.
so if you get Blockto, then to listen to this new event, and instead of the event that they send a pop-up for now that contains a message, then it will be a lot more usable, a lot more user friendly for users.
Yeah.
But with default methods, it's kind of trivial, right? So
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. That's me. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I think we'll call it there. Thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate all the ideas, the feedback for the NFT standard, and definitely happy to help out anyone. If you got any more Cadence questions, feel free to ask in the Cadence channel, or at any time. We're always happy to help. And like I said, I'll be creating issues and sharing some of the work done on the NFT standards very soon, so we can start getting more feedback, because I definitely want to include the community as much as possible in this from now on, because y'all are super important to us. So thank you.